They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but they are wrong. Cold implies it was once hot. It implies passion, anger, a racing pulse, and bloody hands. That is not revenge. That is just a tantrum with a body count. Real revenge is not thermal. It is mathematical. It is a complex, cold-blooded equation where the knot is tied so slowly, so flawlessly, that the victim mistakes it for a luxury silk tie. They wear it proudly, walking straight toward the gallows, completely unaware that they built the platform themselves. My name is Mark, and for the last 3 years, I have been a ghost inside the machine of a billionaire. 10 years ago, Victor Haggard did not just steal my younger brother's groundbreaking cybersecurity algorithm. He did not just build his multi-billion-dollar empire, Haggard tech on a dead man's genius. No, to cover his tracks, Victor used his immense wealth, his high-priced lawyers, and his corrupt media contacts to frame my brother for corporate espionage. They destroyed Leo's reputation. They turned a brilliant, fragile 24-year-old scientist into a national pariah. And when the pressure became too absolute to breathe through, Leo took his own life. Victor Haggard forgot about Leo within a week, wealthy. Men do not remember the ants they crush on their way to the penthouse, but I remembered I did not go to the police, that the law is a luxury bought by the highest bidder. Did not buy a gun. A bullet is too fast, too merciful. It leaves behind a martyr. I wanted something much worse for Victor Haggard. I wanted an absolute, flawless architectural collapse. You cannot destroy a fortress from the outside. You have to be invited in. It took me 7 years to erase Mark Vance from existence and build Julian Cross. Julian Cross did not have a dead brother. He did not have a past. He had a flawless synthetic resume, degrees from top-tier European universities, and a reputation as an elite invisible crisis management analyst. The strategy was simple: become indispensable to the man I intended to destroy. My opportunity came 14 months ago. Haggard Tech suffered a massive, catastrophic data breach. Millions of customer records were leaked overnight. The company's stock plummeted by 11% in 12 hours. Victor Haggard was panicking, firing his entire security board in a fit of narcissistic rage. What Victor did not know was that I engineered the breach. I spent 8 months mapping his servers, finding a minor overlooked vulnerability, and pulling the trigger from a burner laptop in a nameless cafe. I created the fire, and then showed up in a pristine suit, holding the only fire extinguisher. "Mr. Haggard," I said during our very first meeting in his high-floor office overlooking the rainy skyline. I kept my voice entirely devoid of emotion. Flat, professional, calming. "Your current team is looking at the code. They are looking at the wrong thing. This was not an external attack. It was an internal setup. Give me 48 hours and absolute authority, and I will fix this." He looked at me with his bloodshot, arrogant eyes. He was a man addicted to control, currently realizing he had none. "Who the hell are you?" he growled. "The man who is going to save your legacy." I replied, "I did not just patch the leak. I deliberately sacrificed a mid-level manager, a corrupt, lazy director who had been skimming money from the company anyway, and framed him as the hacker. I handed Victor a scapegoat on a silver platter. The stock market stabilized. The media praised Haggard's swift action. And just like that, the gates of the fortress swung wide open. Within 6 months, I was not just an employee. I was Victor Haggard's shadow. When you look at a man like Victor, you realize that billionaires are remarkably fragile creatures. Their empire is built on ego, and ego is a house of cards. My job as his chief risk officer was not just to protect him from real threats. It was to manufacture artificial ones. Paranoia is a beautiful thing. Once you plant a single seed of doubt in a powerful man's mind, his own intelligence will do the rest of the work for you. Every Monday morning, I presented Victor with a private, highly confidential risk assessment report. "We have a problem, Victor," I would say, sliding a sleek black tablet across his mahogany desk. On the screen were perfectly forged encrypted chat logs, untraceable financial transactions, and metadata. To the untrained eye, it looked like his oldest, most trusted board members. Many had known for 30 years, were quietly meeting with hostile private equity firms. "They think you are losing your edge," I whispered, watching the veins in his jaw tighten. "They think the company has outgrown its founder. They would not dare." Victor muttered, his knuckles turning white. "I made them without me. They are nothing." Of course, I nodded smoothly, adjusting my cuffs. "But greed makes men blind. If I were you, I would limit their access to the new server protocols. In fact, it might be safer to isolate them entirely before the next shareholder vote." Step by step, line by line, I made him cut his own throat. Based on my data, Victor began a silent purge. He forced out his co-founder, a man who possessed the actual operational wisdom of the company. He insulted his primary venture capital investors, accusing them of disloyalty during a private dinner. He was burning his own bridges, believing he was protecting his island, and the entire time, he looked at me as his only loyal soldier, the only man he could trust in a room full of traitors. He had no idea that the man sitting across from him, pouring his 20-year-old scotch, was the one pulling the strings of his psychological execution. But isolating him from his business was only the foundation. To truly destroy a man, you must dismantle his sanctuary. You must make sure that when he looks at his own blood, he sees an enemy. To dismantle a dynasty, you do not attack the crown, you poison the lineage. Victor had one son. Marcus was 26, a boy born with a platinum spoon in his mouth and a profound, aching resentment for his father's shadow. He was weak, vain, and desperate to prove he was a man, a dangerous combination, and highly predictable. Marcus was running a small, failing venture capital fund on his father's payroll. He wanted to be a tech visionary, but he lacked the one thing my brother Leo had in abundance: actual genius. Marcus spent his nights in high-end VIP lounges, drowning his insecurities in expensive champagne and bad investments. It took me 3 weeks to drop the bait. I arranged for a beautiful, highly intelligent operative, a freelance corporate spy who did not know my real name, only my cryptocurrency wallet, to cross paths with Marcus at a closed-door gallery opening in London. Within a month, she was his confidant. She fed his ego, and then she fed him an opportunity. "There is a leak inside Haggard Tech," she told him in bed one night, whispering into his ear. "A highly classified, unreleased artificial intelligence protocol. If you can get the source code, a private syndicate in Shanghai will buy it through a shell company for $80 million. Your father will never. No, you can finally build your own empire." Marcus swallowed the hook. He used his family security clearance to download a heavily encrypted file from the corporate mainframe, but Marcus was not a hacker. He did not notice the silent digital tripwire I had installed on that specific server months ago, the moment his thumb drive touched the slot. My phone vibrated. I did not call the police. I did not call security. I waited until 2 a.m. I walked into Victor's private office. He was sitting in the dark, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at the city lights, drowning in the paranoia I had spent months cultivating. "Victor," I said softly, stepping into the dim light of the desk lamp. "I am so sorry. I did not want to bring this to you." I placed a black leather folder on his desk. Inside were high-resolution security photos of his son meeting with a known corporate espionage broker, alongside the digital forensic logs linking Marcus's personal credentials to the data theft. Victor stared at the documents. For a long, agonizing minute, the room was dead silent. I watched his face transform from confusion to absolute, soul-crushing betrayal. His own blood, his only heir. He sold me out. Victor whispered, his voice cracking. "My own son. Greed makes monsters of us all, Victor," I replied, my voice dripping with synthetic sympathy. "He did not just steal data. He was trying to short your stock. He wanted to force you into retirement." That night, the Haggard family died. There was no loud argument, no dramatic confrontation. Victor used his immense power to quietly strip Marcus of his inheritance, his apartments, and his titles. He cut him off entirely and banished him from the country, under the threat of a federal prison sentence. Marcus left for Europe, broken and humiliated, hating his father with every fiber of his being. Victor was now entirely alone in his glass castle. No friends, no partners, no family. He had only me. When a man is drowning in a stormy sea, he will grab onto anything that looks like a lifeline, even if it is an anchor wrapped in gold. With Victor isolated, it was time to introduce the masterpiece of my equation, Victor, I said during a private strategy session a week later. The office was vast, empty and quiet. The market is losing faith because of the internal purges. We need a victory, something massive, something that will make the world remember why you are the king. I opened a holographic presentation. EVM Systems. A highly secretive quantum computing startup based out of Switzerland. They have done it. Victor. They have developed a stable, scalable quantum processor. If Haggard Tech buys them out before they go public, you will control the computational infrastructure of the next century. Your legacy will be immortal. Showed him the data, the white papers, the architectural schematics. The documents were beautiful. They were flawless. They were the exact, refined equations my brother Leo had written in his notebooks before he died, mixed with highly sophisticated digital fabrications. It was a ghost ship, built from the ashes of a dead genius. It is risky, Victor muttered, squinting at the screen. They want $4 billion for a pre-market acquisition. That is more liquidity than we have. I would have to leverage my entire personal stake in Haggard Tech as collateral for the bank loans. True, I said, walking to the window, turning my back to him to hide the dark intensity in my eyes. It is a gamble, but greatness always requires a sacrifice. If you do not buy it, Google or Apple will by next Friday, and Haggard Tech becomes a footnote in history. I let the silence hang in the air. I let his ego do the heavy lifting. The thought of someone else winning, the thought of becoming irrelevant, was a poison his narcissistic mind could not digest. Do it, Victor said, his voice firming up with a false sense of destiny. Draft the loan agreements. Use my personal shares as collateral. Secure the acquisition. Right away. Dr. Haggard. The paperwork took 3 months to finalize. $4 billion borrowed from a syndicate of global banks, backed by Victor Haggard's personal 90% ownership of Haggard Tech. The money was transferred into a secure escrow account in Zurich. From there, it disappeared into a labyrinth of shell companies, moving through Panama, the Cayman Islands, and ultimately settling into an untraceable cold storage cryptocurrency wallet buried deep in a secure vault. My brother's estate was finally funded on June 8th, the 10-year anniversary of Leo's death. The trap was sprung. I did not go to work that morning. I sat in a small, minimalist apartment on the edge of the city, watching 3 different monitors. At 9 a.m., a massive, coordinated short attack hit Haggard Tech stock. At 9:05 a.m., a whistleblower report, complete with thousands of verified internal documents, was leaked to the SEC, Wall Street Journal, and the Department of Justice. The documents detailed systemic financial manipulation, illegal internal purges, and massive corporate fraud inside Haggard Tech. The market panicked. The stock did not just drop. It fell off a cliff, 20%, 30%, 40%. At 10:15 a.m., the Swiss Regulatory Board issued a public statement. EVM Systems does not exist. The intellectual property is a fabrication. The company is a phantom. The dominoes, set in motion over 3 agonizing years, fell in less than 70 minutes. My phone rang. The screen displayed Victor Haggard. I did not answer. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. I picked up my briefcase, checked my reflection in the mirror, adjusted my tie, and walked out into the rain. It was time for the final audit. The corporate headquarters of Haggard Tech was a ghost town. Downstairs, the lobby was swarming with reporters, flashbulbs reflecting off the wet pavement outside. Security guards had abandoned their posts. Employees were packing their lives into cardboard boxes, their faces pale, staring at the flashing numbers on the stock tickers. I took the private elevator to the top floor. One last time, the Penthouse office was dark. The automated floor-to-ceiling glass windows showed a gray, suffocating sky, heavy with rain. Papers were scattered across the floor like dead leaves, and there, sitting behind his massive mahogany desk, was Victor Haggard. He looked as if he had aged 20 years in 2 hours. His tie was undone, his expensive suit jacket thrown on the floor. His hands were shaking violently as he poured whiskey into a glass, spilling half of it onto the polished wood. He did not look up when the door opened. He thought I was a ghost. Julian. His voice was a ragged whisper, a hollow shell of the man who once controlled markets. They froze the accounts, the banks. They are calling in the loans. The stock is down 85%. They are saying EVM Systems is a fraud, a phantom. It is all gone. Julian, everything I built, someone destroyed us. I walked slowly across the room, my footsteps measured, calm, and rhythmic. I did not say a word. I did not offer a single lie of comfort. I stopped right in front of his desk. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a small, faded matte finish photograph, and placed it gently on the desk, right in the middle of the spilled whiskey. Victor blinked, squinting through his bloodshot eyes at the image. It was a photo of a young man with messy hair, wearing a lab coat, smiling awkwardly at the camera. Who is this? Victor muttered, his brow furrowing. Why are you showing me this? We need an anti-crisis plan. Call the lawyers. Call the SEC. His name was Leo, I said. My voice was not loud. It was not angry. It was as cold and steady as a surgical scalpel. And you did not destroy us, Victor. I destroyed you. Victor froze. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the floor. He looked from the photograph up to my face, his eyes wide with a sudden suffocating confusion. Julian, what are you talking about? What is this joke? My name is not Julian Cross. Victor, I said, leaning forward, resting my hands on his desk, forcing him to look into my eyes. My name is Mark Vance. Leo was my younger brother. 10 years ago today. You stole his life's work. You framed him. You let your lawyers tear his mind apart until he could not bear the sound of his own name. You crushed him like an ant. Victor's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The realization crept over him like a paralysis. The data breach 14 months ago, I continued, a faint, dark smile touching my lips. That was me, the forged logs that made you fire your board and isolate your investors. Your son Marcus selling out your secrets to a Swiss operative. I set up an EVM Systems. I tapped the photograph of my brother. EVM Systems was Leo's final project, the one you stole, but could not understand because you are not a genius. Victor, you are just a thief. I took his code, wrapped it in a beautiful lie, and made you buy a ghost for $4 billion. You lunatic, Victor breathed, his face turning an ash gray. He lunged across the desk, trying to grab my collar, but he was too weak. Too broken, I did not even flinch. He fell back into his leather chair, gasping for air. I will call the police. I will tell them everything. You will go to prison for corporate sabotage, fraud.espionage. With what evidence? I asked softly. Every report, every contract, every loan agreement was signed by your hand. Every transaction was approved by your biometric key. In the eyes of the law, you are a paranoid, desperate CEO who committed massive fraud to buy a fake company and hide your failing assets. I am just your loyal employee who tried to warn you. I straightened my tie and picked up my briefcase. Look out the window. Victor, they are not coming for me, I said, looking down at him one last time. The Department of Justice just unsealed the indictment. Fraud, money laundering, and illegal market. Manipulation. Your assets are seized. Your home is foreclosed. Your son hates you. Your partners despise you. You have no money left for those high-priced lawyers. Victor stared at the blinking lights of the police cruisers. He just began to weep quietly, realizing that every choice he thought he made had been scripted by a ghost. Goodbye. Mr. Haggard, I whispered. I reached down, took the photograph of Leo from the desk, and placed it back into my pocket. Close to my heart, I turned around, walked to the door, and flipped the light switch. The office plunged into absolute darkness, illuminated only by the cold. Blue and red flashes of the approaching sirens below. I stepped into the elevator, the doors sliding shut with a soft final click. The equation was solved. The dominoes had all fallen,